Welcome back to Straight Facts. Before we went live, Lyes was about to say something to me and I pressed the live button. Sorry, bro. I'll catch up with you after the show. Welcome back to the Terrace, my friend. I want to say, first of all, forget the transfers. You're everywhere. You're arguably the biggest YouTuber on planet Earth right now, Lyes. And it's good to see. I'm proud of you, mate. Really proud of you.
Appreciate you, bro. I was going to say I'm the biggest YouTuber who doesn't even upload on my own YouTube channel. So there you go.
Yeah. I like it. I see you there with Sharky and the boys over there doing a great job. Of course, with Culture Cam, Fuad over there on is it pronounced football or FTBL?
FTBL.
Yeah, that's what I say. People say, "Oh, have you seen Lyes on football?" And I'm like,
nah,
I think
FTBL.
FTBL. I think it's yeah, that's what I thought it was. And these are youngsters. I'm meant to be the old one, but welcome back to the show, mate. It's been a while indeed. Lots to talk about today, people. Lots to talk about. Mason Mount to Man United closing in. The manager pushing for it hard. Havertz to Arsenal, imminent £60 million deal. Lavia in at Arsenal. Partey may be leaving. We're looking at Caicedo. We're looking at Rice, Hojlund, and much, even a bit of Ollie Watkins today as well. Loads of transfers to talk about to get Lyes' opinions on. Of course, you guys hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribing as well when the bell notification's turned on. But I wanted to start with you, as a Man United fan, I wanted to start with United with you. And first of all, I wanted to get your opinion on the Mason Mount situation. It's reported today that talks and negotiations are going to heat up in the coming days. Erik Ten Hag is determined to secure him, wants him before pre-season. It feels like that deal's going to happen, but what's your take on it overall, mate?
I like Mason Mount as a player. I actually think Mason Mount went through a period where at the very beginning, when he kind of first burst onto the scene for Chelsea, I think a lot of people thought he was overrated. And I think it got to a point with Mason Mount where it became the opposite, where his output for Chelsea was really, really good. I think he was their top scorer and assister 2 seasons in a row, player of the year 2 seasons in a row, obviously huge to their Champions League winning campaign. That I got to a point where he was doing so much, but the opinion on him was already set a year ago that it became a case that he was underrated. And of course, he's had this season where, alongside most of Chelsea, in my opinion, a lot of them have been really poor in a team that's really struggling to find an identity. And I actually think he's kind of come out of it as one of the biggest scapegoats. So do I think he's a really good player? I do. I think when a player is wanted by Arteta, Klopp, and Erik Ten Hag, I don't think realistically you can sit there and say, look, this guy has no talent. This guy has nothing about him. Clearly, these managers look at a guy who has all of the athletic and technical abilities that, if coached, and really another thing about Mount, put in one position for a sustained amount of time, which I don't think he's ever really had the opportunity to at Chelsea. I think these managers look at a guy that you can potentially mold into one of the best young box-to-box goal-scoring midfielders in the country. I don't think Mount is missing anything that could make him that kind of profile. Now, is he exactly what Man United needs when you look at the issues that they've had in their midfield? I think they have a lot of issues in their midfield, most notably their ability to kind of like control the tempo of games. And maybe you'd want someone who's like more of a high-volume passer and kind of controller of the ball from deep, which Mount really isn't. But I think what people make a mistake of doing when they talk about United is like assuming that they only have one issue. Another issue that United has, in my opinion, in midfield in particular, is intensity. And you look at a guy like Christian Eriksen, who really came in and provided something for United, I believe, but a huge weakness in his game is he's just not that athletic, bro. I call him a hologram defensively, in fact. And I think you look at the game against Arsenal, you look at the cup final against City, where City physically bullied United off the pitch. I think a guy like Eriksen can only take you so far. And a guy like Mount has shown that he's energetic, has shown that he's a good athlete. And I think in that regard, he will add something to United in that sense.
I'm not going to change my tune because of what you've said. I'm still someone that's very skeptical about Mason Mount. But in the last week or so, you start to research more, you start to look back. And I went back and started looking. I asked a Chelsea friend of mine who we debated and bantered a lot in the opening 2 seasons that he started for Chelsea, where I came out and apologized because I said he was going to do niche. I said he was going to be poor. And I went back and started looking at some of his highlights from those first 2 seasons. And this guy technically was good, was creating goals, scoring goals. As you say, that energy, that press was there. And then he's sort of fallen off. But he has fallen off at the same time that everybody at Chelsea has fallen off. The club has fallen off, and it's fallen into the abyss. I'm not fully convinced. I totally hear where you're coming from, and I hope and pray that you are 110% right. I really do. But for
Well, let me
me,
say this though,
yeah,
Terry.
go on,
When
go on,
you
bro.
say you hope that I'm 100% right, if Mason Mount is the only incoming in midfield for Man United this summer, it's a disaster. Let's not get it twisted.
Yes, yes,
Mason
yes.
Mount on his own coming to United is not good enough. But if you bring in a Mason Mount now with, and I know it's not going to happen, but somebody of the ilk of Frankie de Jong, you bring them together now, I think Mason Mount improves most teams on the planet, bringing him in alongside guys that improve your team. Now, if he comes by himself, that's where the issue is.
No, I agree. And people have said it in the comments, Terry, you never rated him and said he'd never be a great player. I'm not going back on that. What I am saying is, and go back to those videos, I remember what I said. That first couple of seasons at Chelsea, I was talking about, yeah, I think he's a really good player for you. Now, great player, everyone's got a definition of what that means. If I was to say someone's a great player right now in the Premier League, I would say KDB. I would say Kyle Walker. I would say Allison. I would say Van Dijk. That's what I call great. Do I think he's going to reach those levels? Maybe not. Do I think he is a big, massive improvement on Donny van der Beek, Fred, McTominay in those attacking and pressing areas? Absolutely, I do. So I do think it's about Mount being part of a good summer for a very good summer for Manchester United rather than by himself. But there's also this element of me, mate, that sort of thinks I've got my own footballing opinion and every single fan is entitled to one. But I always reserve a space of judgment in my mind for, but I really back my manager. I really trust him, his talent ID and his ability. And if he really wants him, I am, and I know this is I think it's an attribute of my personality that I have, which I think is dying out of humanity. I've got the ability to park my personal preference, be objective, unemotional, and say, well, let's see what happens. I'm not going to watch every game and you know what's going to happen? They're going to focus on every little mistake. Every time he gives the ball, it's going to be Bruno-esque all over again. Any
Yeah.
little mistake will be highlighted to the nth degree. Everything good that he does will be ignored. And that's the only element of this I'm really not. It's the fans I'm not looking forward to when it comes to this, more so than the player, because you just know how it's going to be. I think I'm going to have to block a whole new catalog of people, bruv, just because it's tiring. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there was a space that someone had the other day. I swear it's the 2000th time he had a space asking if Rashford's good enough for Man United. I'm like, bruv, you've been running that agenda for 3 years now. He just banged in 30 goals. Like, give it a rest. But it's going to be interesting to see what United do with Mount, as you say. In terms of the striker issue, links today to Hojlund, links today to Ollie Watkins. Talk to me. Talk to me, bruv.
Obviously, striker is such a huge issue for United going forward. Last season, the big stat that I keep reiterating every show I'm on, Marcus Rashford on his own had as many goals in all competitions as all of United's other attacking options put together. That's quite simply just not good enough. So yeah, absolutely, they need to find somebody up front because Martial, you can't rely on his fitness and even his game for me is deteriorating. And Weghorst, obviously, that ship has sailed as well. But I can't lie, man. Like I was already very skeptical about like the striker options on the market this summer because I think everyone, while they show promise, there is like a question mark around them. Like Harry Kane was for me the most surefire bet, but even him at his age, was it kind of a question that, oh, if United signs Harry Kane, then now all of a sudden you have him, Casemiro, Bruno is around 28, 29, Varane as well. Is your core too old for a team that's not ready to challenge? But Kane, like it or not, he's scoring 20 goals for Bournemouth, in my opinion. You have Osimhen, who for big money is probably like the best value for age and profile, but is there question marks over his game as well? Can he do it in the Premier League? Hojlund is one that I've heard, but I'll be very honest with you, Terry. I haven't seen enough of Hojlund. I have question marks. Is he somebody that could come in immediately and bang in 18 to 20 plus goals in the Premier League for Man United? I have my doubts, but again, I haven't seen enough of the guy. And then guys like Ollie Watkins, I think he had a great season for Villa this year, right? Unai Emery really came in and he looked like a completely different player. He looked unbelievable, but is this the quality that's going to take United from third and pretty comfortable in top four to challenging with Manchester City and Arsenal and then going to Europe? I have my doubts.
I agree with you. I think, again, Hojlund's a player that I would like to sign if we could land Victor Osimhen, if Kane was coming in. Even a Ramos, who I think is very talented. I think he's a level below those other two, but if he was in conjunction with them, wow, suddenly you've bolstered your attacking line, almost the way City did with Julian Alvarez. You bring him in, as well as knowing that you're bringing in a marquee striker. You've got that great backup off the bench, even though I think he's about the same age as Haaland. We know Haaland is playing at a level beyond his age. it puts you into a different position. And I'm a bit like you. I am a little concerned. I don't want to go into this. There's other positions we need to look at as well. Goalkeeper, as we know, the midfield we've already discussed.
Yes, goalkeeper. Yes. How long have I been telling you about goalkeeper, Terry?
You have, and you know me, right? When we were doing a lot of stuff in the studio at the terrace, I was always like, I get what you're right about the Hayat. Then he'd have a really good game, and I'd say, oh no, I love him. This last season, I woke up and that coffee, I could, mate, it was so strong.
It was so strong.
Even when there's no coffee, I smell it now. The sinuses are burnt and imprinted with the coffee of De Gea. But I was like counting. I was doing an average over our last 7 or 8 games of the season. How many times he gave the ball away with unforced errors? He was averaging 17 to 18 times per game. And then I watched the Inter Milan game. Inter Milan, they could have beaten City in that cup final with some better players. Why were they able to create more attacks, have slightly more of the ball, and relieve pressure? Because Onana could find his teammates in space and De Gea can't. It's a huge area for us that we have to focus on. But equally, we also need some more bagsmen. We need, as you've said, the fact that Rashford is still the center of controversy with a select group of Man United fans who are, in my opinion, butthurt that Martial fell off a cliff and Sancho hasn't surpassed him. That's all it is. It's their ego and their pride as men has been damaged, so they're taking it out on Rashford. But we need more strikers as well. Like, that's the thing with us. The midfield, of course, it needs to improve, but we need more goals and we need a goalkeeper. And I'm just getting a horrible feeling about our window at the minute, and nothing to do with getting Mount. It's more, I'm reading one report saying we may not be able to buy a new goalkeeper because of money. Then we're linked to Pickford, and I just think, Jesus Christ. Then it's only Hojlund, who I rate, but he isn't enough by himself. And this is why I still don't understand the criticism the likes of Simon Jordan and people get when we say the Glazers are damaging our club. And they say, well, you spent £1 billion. Yes, but they've wasted it. And that's why now we have a manager that could take us to the next level this summer if money was available that hadn't been wasted time and time again over the last decade on failed projects, severance pays for managers who weren't good enough and shouldn't have ever been brought into the football club, players that we purchased, overpaid for, players we undersold. And then on top of that, all the interest payments and dividends. There should be money left at Man United right now. There should be hundreds of millions of pounds in our bank accounts to go, listen, there's the money for Kane, there's the money for Rice, there's the money for Costa, and then the Mounts and the Hojlunds added around it. The money should be there, but it isn't because we've fouled in the past. And are you a little worried that if we don't get this takeover early enough, the summer could be so underwhelming that the manager isn't able to kick us on to that next level?
I'm concerned either way, because I'm even reading that even if Sheikh Jassim was to walk through the door tomorrow, the funds available to Man United are not going to go up by that much. Like, what they're realistically allowed to spend this summer is going to be capped off regardless of who the ownership is. And that's an issue because this whole saga has lasted way longer than it was supposed to. They were talking about first, look, I really stayed away from this takeover stuff.
They were talking about the end of March initially.
Yeah. The
now
first quarter or whatever it was called, right?
Yeah, Q1.
Yeah.
Business.
Yeah, look, I stay away from all of that stuff because, bro, I'm not a financial advisor here. I'm not a financial specialist. But yeah, look, I mean, United are going to be capped off regardless of who comes in at this point in the window. But I'm very concerned, to be honest with you, Terry, because I just look at United, and I'm someone that took a lot of stick because I keep saying, let's remember where United were at the start of the season, what the expectation was around the club and where they had just come off of. I seriously believe United and Ten Hag overachieved this season. Like, I'm very happy with the fact that we came third because when I look at the squad and look at the holes that are still in the starting 11, not even just in the squad, it's not really a team that should have been where they were, in my opinion. No matter how much money they spent, the squad's still not good enough. So I look at how many holes are in not just, again, the bench, but even the starting 11 and how much money we have to spend this year. I don't think that a realistic enough window that we should be having will happen. And I think, again, we are going to be left behind Arsenal, City, and then you look at the chasing pack, right? United will strengthen, of course, but will it be enough to continue staying above the likes of Liverpool, who will get better, Newcastle, who are only getting better and better and better, and Chelsea, who we know are just going to continue pumping money into this project? I'm extremely concerned going into next season.
Well, this is the thing. This is where look, rival fans will always banter, but this is where they show their bum-bums. This is where they show their ass. Because they're calling us in the comments now, you're a wash club. They're agreeing with you that we're going to be left behind.
Yep.
They're the same fans that said we couldn't call this current season an overachievement because we're expected to do it. A
Yeah.
washed club doesn't win a trophy and finish in the top 4, 3 or 4 places above expectation and not be overachieving. And there's a phrase you coined last summer, and every time I've mentioned it throughout the season, I don't plagiarize with it. It's cheating the process.
Yeah, don't cheat the process.
You can't cheat it, and that's my fear here. That the holes aren't fixed, and if Liverpool improve, Chelsea improve, Arsenal and City get better, it's kind of hard for City, but if they all do, it's United need to trade blow for blow. And right now, listen, I'm hoping that we're working in silence. I'm hoping there's more money available than they're promising us. The takeover, I don't believe the journalists when they say there's still going to be no money. The reason I say that is if the ownership take over and pay the debt off, that's £60 million a year in interest payments we get back, as an example. They're going to pay the transfer debt off, which is about 60, 70 million, which costs us about 50, 60 a year. You've suddenly got 120 million available. They can pump £100 million cash of their own money in directly for transfers straight away as part of the legislation. So you could raise 200 to 220 million instantly with what their proposal is, plus then the sale of players. I still think they could come in and spend north of 300 million if they take over. But the problem you have is if the takeover doesn't get complete until August, Caicedo and Rice and everybody else, they're going to be done. They're going to be at new clubs. It needs to have been done now. And yeah, I agree with you completely. It is a genuine worry for me with who we were linked to, how strongly we were linked to them, and how now they're just one by one, they're falling away for one reason or another. And I'm just, as you say, my concern is, are we going to throw another manager under the bus by not giving him?
Of course we are. This is what we do, man. This is what we do. Like, I was laughing, honestly, seeing at the beginning of the window, people getting gassed at the amount of players you were getting linked to. Because, like, have you not been here before? Every single summer, we're linked to every single player under the sun because we're easy clicks for every single media outlet, every single journalist, every single pundit. We almost never end up getting 95% of those names. And at the end of the window, we're almost scrambling, trying to get deals across the line to basically give a manager who's already overexceeded this season. That's how every single year it goes from we're not in the top 4, we spend a lot of money to get back into the top 4, and then we're there, the ownership gets comfortable, and that's how we fall out, and then repeat the cycle.
I absolutely agree. There's some super chats here. Paul says, Lyes, Lyes, it's Lyes, pretending he rates Mount, has got to be FT highlight. Oh, Football Terrace highlight. And Ruben Neves going to Saudi. Yeah, that's a mad one. 26 against Saudi. He must have been offered. The money must be so good that he just said, you know what? It's probably two things. I don't think any big clubs are in for him now.
Yeah.
And he's probably thinking, I'm being offered, what he might be getting offered 50, 60 million.
They're talking about 10 times more than he currently makes. That's what they're reporting.
Yeah. Go and do it then. Going there and earning that is better than being at Wolves. So no disrespect to Wolves.
I said the same thing.
I agree. Let's not forget Mount did it on the biggest stage with that assist in the final. He was 22. He's still young as well. And the whole Chelsea team had a drop-off, and he will definitely bounce back. Yeah, very much marries up with what you said there. Thank you, Hussein. Disappointed about Min-jae. Are you disappointed we're not getting Min-jae now and he's going to be going to Bayern Munich?
I can't lie. In terms of like what I deem the priorities at Man United, a 4th choice / 3rd choice center back isn't really that high in my opinion. So I think Kim Min-jae is a great player. And for the buyout clause that he had, or the release clause that he had for this month, it would have been great business. But I think there's players and positions that I would much rather United focus on. But it doesn't look like they're going to. It looks like they're going to go next up with this Assassi guy who I've never seen before, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't have I like hearing you say that. That's why I've got a lot of respect for you. I know the kids online, but oh man, I've been knowing about this guy forever.
Nah,
you mean he was a wonder? Yeah, you mean he was a wonder kid last year on Football Manager? Is that what it is? Is that I know nothing about him. I'll do some research at O'Malley, but thank you very much for the super chat, brother. It means a great deal to me. Chelsea. Chelsea is such an interesting club at the minute. As we say, we've already kind of touched on the situation with Mount, and they want a lot. They want about 75 million for him, which I don't think they'll get. I think it'll be around 60. It's crazy. Caicedo now, he's been a long-term target of Arsenal's. but the rumor has it that Chelsea will land him in the coming weeks. How good a piece of business do you think that is for Chelsea? And do you think they're right to start signing people first, or should they be clearing out a lot more before they do that?
I don't know about Caicedo, to be honest with you. What are we talking about? 60, 70 million?
They're talking nearer 80, between 80 and 100.
You see, I don't know. Like, I've been very quiet about Caicedo all season just because I almost want to like just observe the player, like learn more about him. Because I feel like, honestly, especially on Twitter, people see a player and they get a little bit of hype and he gets linked to a big club. And all of a sudden, every single club on the planet needs this guy and there's no other midfield option. I think, and I've watched Caicedo a lot this season, especially the second half. He is a very good player, no doubt about it. I think he is one of the better defensive midfielders in the league, especially at 21 years old, I believe. But I also believe that all of a sudden we're talking about this guy like he's the next N'Golo Kante. And he very well may be, but what he is right now does not, in my opinion, align with the way people are talking about him. I think he's very good, but if you were to give me the option between him or Declan Rice, I would take Rice. And I think that's the direction that Arsenal are going towards. Now, for Chelsea, again, 80, 90 million, fair enough, but that's not my money. If you could get him for 60, 70 and pair him next to Enzo Fernandez, who I actually rate very, very highly, I think he complements Enzo exceptionally well. I think he frees him up a little more offensively, which I think Enzo is really kind of locked into this defensive role that really isn't his strength. You put Caicedo next to Enzo, I think you have a top double pivot for the next 10, 15 years. I think that'd be a really good addition to the squad.
I really rate Caicedo. I look at him as someone that I think he's can be one of the leading lights in midfield across European football for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I think he's got so much talent. Again, United are rumored to be interested in monitoring the situation, which basically says to me, we want him, but we just don't have the readies or the money to put it down on him. The pressure for Chelsea is, I like Enzo as well. I don't think he was anywhere near as bad as rivals tried to pretend he was. I think he was one of the kind of players that could walk away from that catastrophic second half of the season with his head held high. I think he played well, but he was in a position where he's feeding the ball into the right areas. And that attacking line for Chelsea just, was impotent, to say the least. You know what I mean? They needed Viagra over there. But I get the pressure on Chelsea spending that much money, especially if they start going into the 90s, into the 100 millions, because Chelsea have got huge pressure on them to turn their season around anyway. You then throw in another record-breaking sign-in to that level, there's going to be a huge amount of pressure. But I have to say, I am jealous of the fact Chelsea might be pulling this off, especially with Arsenal, which we'll touch on, going for Mount. Chelsea that had an awful season, maybe getting Caicedo, and right now we're not really credibly, or we're not linked in any advanced way to any of the top midfielders. Like, we're looking at Lavia, we're looking at Caicedo. Today it was reported the manager's fuming that the takeover hasn't happened because we can't bid for Rice. So I'm sitting there as a Man United fan thinking, I wouldn't want to be in Chelsea's position right now. I like where we are as a team, but just financially in such a better situation than we are, or it appears they're in a better situation than we are. But do you think there's a risk maybe there could be a Basuma scenario? Because again, what we'll say is when Basuma got sold for 25 million, the world was like, that maybe could be one of the best signings in Premier League history. 25 million for that guy. And maybe he bounces back next year. Do you think there's any chance Caicedo goes to Chelsea and does a Cucurella or does a Basuma?
To be fair with Basuma, even last season, again, I was another one of those people that was saying, look, Basuma is good, but bro, the way people are talking about him, again, it's like we're talking about one of the elite midfielders in world football. I think it was good. I think he'll bounce back again. But no, I think Caicedo was better than Basuma was. And again, he's 21 years old. To be showing this much at this young, the sky is the limit for the kid. I just don't think right now at this moment, I think people are talking about him a little too much. But my concern, honestly, with Chelsea, Terry, isn't that Caicedo could end up like Basuma. I'm concerned about the age of the squad going into next season. All of their players and all of their signings are really, really young and really, really inexperienced. And I think for a team, again, like you're trying to build a core, you're trying to build a team that's going to go into this next generation of Chelsea Football Club. I don't know. I think maybe you'd want a few more senior statesmen around the club. I think you look just at 2021 when Chelsea won the Champions League. How many of their players are gone or on the way out? Havertz on the way out. Mount on the way out. Timo Werner left. Kovacic on the way out. Jorginho left. N'Golo Kante left. Edouard Mendy on the way out. Rudiger left. Azpilicueta, I don't know what his future lies. There's very few players of that core that are still there. And some Chelsea fans might say that's a good thing because they weren't good enough. But I don't know. I think it's going to be a huge ask for this really, really young, talented, but very, very young and inexperienced team to all of a sudden just bounce back from last season and immediately get Chelsea back into the top four. I think that's my one concern because Chelsea are going to stumble at points next season. And that's really where you want your elder statesmen to hold themselves accountable for it and pick up the youngsters. And do they have enough of those players?
That's a great point. It's a great look. I sort of Poch is going to make them play better football. They will improve next year. I think a big part of it comes down to how good City, Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool, Newcastle are, how well they do. I actually don't think they've got anything to worry about from a top four point of view from Tottenham. I think the appointment of Big Ange, the way Spurs fans have bigged it up, or a lot of them have bigged it up, it seems so false, like a fake smile when you really want to cry. It doesn't feel right to me, considering the same fans believe the media lies from their own journalists. They turned down Enrique, they turned down Nagelsmann, but their number one target was Big Ange over those guys. That makes no sense to me. It's like, I really want a masterclass in how to write great music and how to sing. And I can choose between Stevie Wonder and Peter Andre, and I pick Peter Andre. You're just not going to do it, in my opinion. Do you know what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
It's crazy to me. So I don't think they've got that to worry about, Chelsea. But I think you make a good point, and I'd love to get Chelsea fans' opinion in the comment section. Are you worried about the average age of your squad next year, the inexperience and the pressure? Because you have to bounce back. You have to be in the top four race. You have to be competing for trophies, because by the end of this summer, and I know people love net spend, but everyone knows I don't work in the net spend world. It's what have you spent on your squad? You're going to be moving towards 800 to 900 million pounds spent on this squad. There has to be a tangible return on that investment, even in the short term. I think clubs the size of Man United, clubs the size of Chelsea, Liverpool, there is no 2, 3, 4 years without winning. You've got to be winning whilst you're rebuilding. I don't know your take on that.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, to be honest with you. I was kind of laughing at the Spurs thing. Honestly, I think what is it? Ange Postecoglou, right? That's how you pronounce his name. I think I was actually happy to see that appointment, because honestly, I think Spurs have been like deluding themselves the last few years that they're this club that can just go hire these big win now serial managers, and they're one manager away from winning trophies. Spurs, for as long as I've known them, they've been that team that plays beautiful football, but they're beautiful losers, and they end up in 5th, 6th around those areas. And I think Postecoglou, like, you're going to get, it's like Harry Redknapp 2.0 in my opinion. You'll play some decent football, sign some decent players, but know yourself, man. Know your worth. This whole, let's get Mourinho and let's get Conte to take the final step. That's not you guys, man. That's not you. Be yourself. So I am happy about the Postecoglou thing. But yeah, Chelsea, honestly, do I think they're obviously going to be better than they were last year. I think it's almost impossible for them to sink any lower than they were that year. But I'm looking at guys like Mudryk, honestly, not even as young as I thought he was. But in terms of football age, he hasn't played that many games. Enzo, pretty inexperienced. Caicedo, inexperienced. And Nkunku is actually going to be one of their more senior players coming in from Leipzig. So I'm very interested in seeing what they do this season. I got a lot of eyes on them.
I hear you. I want to say to the viewers as well, I know you're all pointing out that I look like I'm wearing PJs, my pajamas tonight. I'm telling you this now, people. This is a Ballers two-piece. This is what I'm going to say. This is Ballers clothing. You need a high amount of confidence to pull it off wearing it in public. And I'll say this to people now. If you like clothes, never let anybody make you feel inferior in them. One of my best friends growing up, Ricky, said this to me. You wear your clothes. Don't let them wear you. That's what I'm going to say. So you can all banter you all you want in the comments, but look at me. Cool, calm, collected, confident. I'll go out in this with my legs. I got nice legs as well. Nice, big, strong legs as well. So they look good in these shorts. You know what I'm saying? Fighters' legs. I know some of you want to see them as well. Do you know what I'm saying there? In my Tony Montana get up. But there we go. People saying Fabrizio, breaking news. Yeah, I've just seen it. They just announced now that Wolves have completed the agreement for Ruben Neves to join the Saudi club. 55 million euro fee. Do you know what as well? Like, I want them to come in and buy out. Like, they're going to start. That's what's great about this Saudi league. They're going to buy a lot of dead wood for a lot of money. Like, they might listen, if he would agree to go, they'd easily go 50, 60 million for Maguire, you know. They would. They just got that money's easy. Oh, mad days. Yeah. And then also now they're now looking to sign Koulibaly from Chelsea as well. Koulibaly from Chelsea.
Yeah, and that makes sense, to be honest with you. That's been a disappointing signing.
You know, awful. I couldn't believe how bad he's been. He just looks like he's one of those. Look, Maguire's not been great for us in the last 18 months to 2 years. But I would keep if someone said you've got to keep Maguire or being Koulibaly, I wouldn't even think about it. Yeah, Maguire. Like
it's that Gary Neville quote where it's like choosing between two blokes to nick your wife.
Yeah.
Maguire, Koulibaly.
It's crazy. But honestly, I wouldn't have to think about it. Koulibaly makes Maguire look good. That's how bad he's been. Like his Chelsea career anyway. Like before that, he's very, very top and highly rated midfield player. This year says hearing good football takes with an American accent is throwing me off, not gonna lie. Speed and ESPN are ruining your rep, Lyes. Man, did you see him meet Ronaldo last night?
Yeah, that was dope. But Steven, I'm Canadian, so I'm bringing up my own rep. Sorry, brother.
Yeah, he's not even American. It's North American, I suppose you could say. There's a super chat here that says from the same dude actually. That says, Terry, it's a bit reductive to say all of Rashford's critics are AM9 and Sancho and Martial fanboys. There are lots of games where Rashford is barely involved and kills a lot of attacks. Happy with his goal output, but there are valid critiques. I understand there's valid critiques. I'm talking about people that are consistently holding spaces, that see him at a book signing event where he's raising money for starving children and get angry. I think probably break their phones when they see the pictures. That's weird. That isn't someone critiquing a performance, because I've critiqued Rashford's performances all season. But to have an agenda where you're talking about him consistently, still slagging him off after a 30-goal season, tells me there's hatred there, or your pride's been damaged because you didn't get what's been damaged. Damn it, in my opinion, Lyes, and we had this conversation in the summer last year. Donny's going to ball out and Martial's going to ball out with his manager. Rashford and Bruno are dead in here, bruv. We've got a proper manager now. And he's building the team around the two people they hate. And some people just can't take it. I'm not saying you, Stephen. I'm talking about the weirdos in their spaces hating on him. I was being quite specific there, I thought. But
let me just say this, first of all, by the way. There's someone in the comments saying Lyes is repping Egal. I am not repping Egal. I'm my own man, and I'm definitely not repping Egal, bro. Canada's a very big country. But yo, Terry, I was gonna say last year, remember, I was one of the people, I think on your show, I said Bruno Fernandes to succeed at United, Ten Hag has to perform open brain surgery on him. I said he has to get a brain transplant. First of all, big up Ten Hag and big up Bruno, because both of them have completely changed the narrative around that guy. I did a complete 180 on Bruno since then. So yeah, I think you got it spot on here, bro. A lot of people want to hold on to preconceived notions or agendas that they held 12 to 18 months ago, but I think you have to always continue updating your opinion as new information is given. So if you're still holding on to Rashford from 2 years ago, come on, man.
Yeah, the thing is, that's why even when I don't agree with your opinions, I respect them, because I know if new information arises or a player improves, you change your mind. It's as simple as that. I find that, but the thing is, having a normal brain functionality in 2023 is a rarity. It is, because everybody's so. I mean it. Maybe there's too much mercury in their diets when they were kids. I don't know, but it's just legit. I don't understand how people can go, oh yeah, he's answered all the questions. I see this a lot about Rashford and Bruno. It's the funniest tweets I see. Take away their creativity and or goals, depending who they talk about. Tell me what else they excel at on the ball. I mean, that's two really important things for attackers. Like, and you're getting rid of them. The best one I hear is, yeah, but look, some of Bruno's creation comes from corners and free kicks. Why are we crediting him for that? So you're gonna say that being good at set pieces is a bad thing now. It's mental.
Every corner, penalty, and free kick we should just not take, honestly, because they don't count in the added stat.
Oh no, we do want Bruno taking this. He might get an assist, and that'll be bad. Bad day. Yeah, it's crazy. Absolutely crazy. In terms of Chelsea, they've got to get rid of people. Maybe Koulibaly is going to be one of the first. Do you feel like they're going to be able to get rid of enough people to really get the squad into a good position to start the season?
For their own sake, I hope so, to be honest with you. Guys like Loftus-Cheek, guys like Gallagher, we already know Mount is probably on the way out. Kai Havertz as well. Yeah, I think they'll be able to be honest with you, because look, again, like I look at Chelsea, I don't think all of these guys are suddenly overnight bad players. I think there's still quality in a lot of these guys. Look, I don't rate them all, but yeah. And there's so many teams in the league, bro. Not every Chelsea player is going to go to Man United. Not every Chelsea player is going to go to Arsenal. A guy like Gallagher will end up at an Everton or at like a Leeds. That's his level. So yeah, I think they'll be able to make the necessary sales.
Yeah, one they're looking at, and this is obviously big Arsenal link here. This here states that the deal for Kai Havertz is as good as sealed for a whopping 60 million. Exciting news for Gooners. They're hoping for it to complete after the international break. Again, a lot of Arsenal fans are angry about this. You've got Chelsea fans celebrating in the streets, requesting street parties to say, yes, we're getting rid of Kai Havertz. But just like Mount, very, very likely to join a major Premier League rival. Who do you think is getting the best deal here? Arsenal or Chelsea?
It's tough, man. I think probably Chelsea, just because they're honestly making back the same amount of money on a guy that won them the Champions League and really hasn't done much since. So you paid 70 million, you won the Champions League from him, and after almost nothing else, you're getting 70 million back or in around those. So I would say Chelsea are probably the winners. Look, the Havertz deal is so confusing to me because most signings I can kind of look at them and say, yeah, I know where he's going to fit, or I kind of get the general gist of why this club or this manager is signing him. With Kai Havertz, I really cannot predict where he fits into this Arsenal team. Like, people are telling me in left central midfield and 8. Is that really where his best role is? Some people are saying depth for the front 3. Okay, but is he going to start over any of these 3? It's very hard for me to kind of predict where Havertz features for Arsenal going forward. What I will say, though, is I've always been a believer in Kai Havertz's talent. I do think there's a good player there. I think his IQ is actually extremely high. He's a decent athlete. Like, I think there is a player there that, again, just like Mount, a top manager will look at and say, yeah, we can mold him into a good player. And there's no coincidence that the likes of Real Madrid, Bayern, and now Arsenal are all after him. They don't go after bad players, guys. So let's get that out of the way. But I just don't see where in this team Kai Havertz fits. And for that reason, is this the kind of signing Arsenal should be making? Everyone has been telling me over and over and over that the reason they fell off a cliff the second half of the season last year was because Saliba went down and they didn't have enough depth. So therefore, shouldn't you be in the market looking for a center back that could fill in if Saliba doesn't go out so you don't make the same mistake you did 12 months ago? That's the way I'm thinking. So I don't know if this is a move that takes Arsenal up another level. I rate the player. I rate Arteta's ability to improve players. But is this the best use of £60 million? I have my doubts.
I get where you're coming from. In terms of where he's going to play, I read a report this morning that Arsenal want him as a versatile striker, as an option, a better option than Eddie Nketiah. A few people are saying 60 million is a lot for a backup. I think when you put 60 million pound into a player, that's someone that you're bringing in who is, you can argue, I wouldn't say backup is maybe the wrong word. He's part of your main 13, 14 players in terms of game time. He may start off on the bench, but trying to get into the team. Kai Havertz is an interesting one because the amount of times in a Chelsea shirt, I see him in the exact right position, but he misses the headers, he misses the shots, he misses the goal, but he's in the right position. I suppose there may be a train of thought with Mikel Arteta where he thinks, if I can get his confidence up and make him start to convert an extra 1 in 4 of those opportunities, that may be an extra 10 to 15 goals across all competitions that we can score. That's going to help us generate more points, push us further in the cup competitions. I am just like with Mason Mount. I'm skeptical about this one.
Yeah,
you said something to me the other day when we were planning to come on here that stood with me, that you can't see both Mount and Kai Havertz having poor seasons next year. One of them, whether it's Mount at United or whether it's Havertz at Arsenal, is going to increase their levels and it's going to end up looking like a really good deal.
I think both of them will look better than they did at Chelsea. Definitely. There's no doubt in my mind that next season they will look better than they did in their last 12 to 18 months at Chelsea. No doubt about it. But if you're asking me who do I think will look better, I'd probably stick with Mount just because he will play for United. So I got to show a little bias there.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for us. There's a super chat here that says the two biggest jokes in the Prem are Arsenal and United, giving Chelsea 120 million for Havertz and Mount. Shout out to Lyes, my fellow Canadian.
I thought he was going to say the two biggest jokes are these two.
Yeah, I was like, oh, wow. I was like, thanks for the money, though, G. I was say, thank you. Go towards my next Miami verse shirt. A few people as well saying, Terry, too much chest hair. All I'm going to say is this. One day when you have chest hair, you'll know what it's all about, my friends. And you know how much the ladies love it as well.
I'm still waiting for mine to come through.
The chest hair of the ladies. Which are the two? Which are the two? Bro?
Oh, this guy.
Yay! Got him again. Got him again. I'm only joking, brother. But yeah, listen, I think he can be a good signing. But I get what you're saying about Arsenal in the centre-back areas. They've got Kivior that I thought came in late in the season. I thought he looked a lot better than Hojlund. I was shocked he didn't play earlier. But one of the other massive stories today, the massive stories that I think has caught a lot of Arsenal fans off guard, is that Partey might be leaving. And it's concrete that he could be on his way out the door when it was only up until that 4-game collapse. This guy was being discussed by everybody involved with Arsenal as maybe the best DM in the league, better than Rodri, better than Casemiro, one of the best midfielders in the world. To 2 months later, the club's looking to rebuild its midfield, and it's going to be around the likes of Odegaard and Rice, and both Xhaka and Partey could be gone. Is this caught you off guard? Did you expect to see him potentially on his way out?
Look, first of all, the whole Partey compared to Rodri and Casemiro, come on, man. This is like, I felt like I was like reliving Liverpool's last few glory years, where every single player they have is now all of a sudden the best player in the world and one of the best players in their position of all time. Like, Partey is a good player. He's a very good DM, and he was huge to what Arsenal were doing last year. But it's not a coincidence the last 2 seasons, when Arsenal have collapsed at the tail end of the season, Partey has either been unavailable through injury or his form has completely dropped off a cliff. So in that sense, it's not a surprise to me that Arteta views Partey as someone who he can't rely on. Let's just talk about the footballing side of things. I think that's really the big side from the footballing aspect, that he's just not a reliable enough player. And I think he's 29, turning 30 soon. He's not getting any younger. He's not going to be getting any better. And when you see guys like Lavia, Declan Rice, Moses Caicedo on the market, really a really good amount of top young defensive midfielders, I think this is the perfect time for Arsenal to strike and sign one of them. Xhaka is another one, right? He was playing more advanced this season, but again, if he wants to leave, there's not really much you can do for that.
Yeah, I looked at it this way. Now, look, I'll say it because we're on the Straight Fact show. There could be a non-footballing reason as to why Arsenal are looking to push him out. And we all know what that is about, but we'll put that aside. I want to say this in the right way. Partey's really good, but when it came to that business end of the season, he's maybe your most experienced outfield player, along with Gabriel Jesus and Xhaka. And he let you down. He dropped the ball. He went completely and utterly missing in one of the most important roles on the football pitch. You saw, for instance, Rodri. The man literally won the Champions League for his team, stepped up when needed. Casemiro, right towards the end of the season, we had a bit of sketchy form. He came back into it, scored that brilliant opening goal against Bournemouth as an example. He came in and he galvanized our team, and he led us right to the end for a big season for us. Where Partey, when the push comes to shove, he always misses some of the biggest. He seems to always miss the biggest games of the season. Yeah, now it might just be bad luck, but when it keeps happening over and over again, suddenly you start to think, "Come on, I don't believe in coincidences anymore." Equally, what is he going to be by the end of his contract? He's going to be 31. That means you extend his deal now by what, three years, which means you got a 5-year deal.
It's not
one of the highest paid players at the club. When the right development into a Caicedo or into a Lavia could see them at Partey's level inside the next 2 years, you get a longer period of time on less money. You could bring money in for him now to reinvest. I don't think it's the worst decision in the world from Arsenal. And there's clearly something. And now this is where I think this is what I always like, right? I get Lee Gunner if he's angry, because I bet Lee's angry about it. Because he doesn't like Arteta. He'll attack him over it, right? Yeah. But all the gooners who all year have told us, back the process, back the manager, Arteta's this, Arteta's that. They're so angry with all of Arteta's decisions in the transfer market. And it makes me wonder, do you really trust your manager? Do you really believe he's as good as you said he is? And these are the same fans, by the way, that were fuming that wanted Richarlison over Jesus. The same fans who said, how dare we sign Ben White? What the hell is a Gabriel when he came in? Why are we spending money on Odegaard? And look how they've all delivered and done for him. Tomiyasu, who's he? No one even knows what position he plays. I think he's been phenomenal for £8 million for Arsenal. They had a season that nobody expected. but the level of outrage I see about the decisions the same man's making, it's not computing for me. Maybe I'm not a gooner and I don't get it, but I don't know about you, Lyes. It's weird seeing outrage. Like, as I said, I don't really want Mount, but I'm trusting my manager to not get irate about it. Does that make sense? But with some gooners, they're fuming. They're fuming.
I'll be real, to be honest with you. For me, the majority of Arsenal fans I've seen on Twitter, maybe it's just the people I follow, are actually, in my opinion, like obnoxiously positive. Like a lot of the Arsenal fans that I follow, it's like everything Arteta does, like there's like a message sent from God.
I need more of that. My timeline is so toxic.
We can switch if you want, bro. You can have them all.
Please.
I'm seeing a lot of Arsenal fans. It's almost like, yo, Arteta, he's seeing through the same eyes like as God, and like everything that he does is the correct decision. And I'm seeing a lot of like, oh, Havertz, we're signing him clearly to play in this left side. That's just my view, but this is the way I viewed Arsenal all season, right? I was very impressed with Arsenal season, obviously. And the reason I actually had Mikel Arteta, probably until the last few weeks where his team fell off, as the manager of the season, is because I looked at this team and I looked at a lot of these players and I thought, is this team really like as good as we think they are, or are they massively overperforming their average level? In my opinion, it was the second. I credited Arteta massively because I think his coaching was really increasing the ceiling of players that just shouldn't have been hitting a 90 or trajectory 90-point tally at the end of the season. But that's kind of why I like these moves, because I think if Arsenal were to go in with most if not all of the same group in one or two additions, I don't know if Arsenal would have just automatically hit 90 plus points. I say again, they didn't even hit 90 plus points last year. I don't know if that would have just happened. So I'm a firm believer, Terry. I look at City's greatest teams. I look at United's old greatest teams, Liverpool's old greatest teams. What, we got some transfer news.
Finish what you're saying, though. Sorry.
Yeah. I haven't seen it yet, so you'll have to fill me in on that. But I think of United's greatest teams ever. I look at City under Pep, and I look at what Liverpool failed to do. For top teams to stay at the top and sustain challenges, which I always say, sustaining is always harder than mounting the initial challenge. You have to be ruthless. You have to continue adding quality on top of quality already. And you're going to see players that you kind of saw come up through this process, through this rebuild that you had. They're going to be dashed out the back door. And it's going to hurt you because you grew attached to these players. But to continue being successful and sustain success, you have to be ruthless. And for me, it's the biggest reason why Liverpool under Klopp have had 2 fall-off seasons. It's because the board and Klopp have not been ruthless enough the way Fergie was and the way Pep is now. So I do respect what Arteta is doing.
100%. And a great example, and I always go back to my club because I remember it more vividly. It's only really been the last 6 or 7 years since I've been running the Terrace that I've watched every other club. I haven't missed. I actually only realized it for the last 5 seasons. I haven't missed a single game of any member of the traditional top 6. I've watched every match they've played in every competition, which is ridiculous when you actually deep that, right? But years back, I didn't do that. But when Fergie was at his pomp, when he sold Ruud van Nistelrooy, there was outrage. I was living in Manchester at the time, and there was Wise, one of the best strikers in the world, because the manager saw what was coming from Ronaldo and Rooney, as an example, had eyes on already on. He had obviously Louis Saha and Alan Smith. Alan Smith at the front, but he was eyeing up Tevez and a few others. But his view was, I've got to move this number 9 out because we're going to kind of change football a little bit. And Man United did at that point in the Premier League with the kind of inverted forwards and the fluid front three where there wasn't an out-and-out number 9. But he knew he had to be ruthless and sacrifice somebody to move them on. As you say, Pep is one of the best at doing that. You look at the players that might be leaving this year. The Mahrezes and the Kyle Walkers, I still think are at the peak of their powers. But what he doesn't want to let happen at Man City is for them to become lesser versions of themselves. And move on. And I think Arteta, as I say, I haven't seen that many positive gooners talk about this online. But having said that, it's Father's Day, and I've barely been on Twitter today. So maybe just some people I follow, it's come up on my timeline and I'm misreading it, and I apologize if I have. But you're right. He does need to be ruthless. He does need to be, this guy's really good, but I think we can get better. And I said this to Gooners, and go back to what I said back in February when you were first heavily linked to Rice. I said Rice will replace and be better at your club than Thomas Partey.
Easily.
And I meant bench him. He's going to get sold for him because Declan Rice has and always will be better than Thomas Partey. Now, I know you love him, but Man United fans and Arsenal fans have done this alike because our teams have been in the mud for a decade plus. is we were too attached to players, and we care more about the players and the hype we give them online than we do the football club. At the end of someone said to me the other day, I bet you wouldn't swap Rashford for Mbappe if there was an opportunity to. So I love Rashford. Of course I would, though. I would put Rashford in the boot of my M4 and drive as fast as I could to Paris and drop him off and say, cheers, bruv. I would. I love Rashford.
Wait. Are you sure, though, Terry Mbappe could do it in the Prem?
Yes.
Are you sure? Rashford is Prem proven, bro. Mbappe.
Yeah, I know. I would do it. Like, I would have no qualms. I would have no qualm in the world with doing it. If you can give me a better player, it shouldn't even be the worst thing I ever hear. And I did see it a lot from Gooners this season, but I've seen it from many other fan bases. The whole, we can't sign Mbappe because it'll get in the way of the development of Garnacho. What? Like, people say stuff like that. I've seen Arsenal fans in the past turn down, like opinion-wise, go, no, we shouldn't sign this brilliant attacker because we've got to develop Smith Rowe. No, if Smith Rowe's good enough, it'll be good enough. If he isn't, he isn't. Like, you've got to get this bullshit out of your heads. And
thing too, right? Competition breeds success. Competition breeds success, and it breeds improvement from individual players.
It absolutely, it absolutely does. So I look at this and think to myself this, right? You've got the Kai Havertz news where he's coming in, and Arsenal fans like, I don't know if that's the right deal. Partey leaving. Some are saying, I don't know if that's the right deal. You know what you said about Bruno? You did a 180 on him this year. Over the course of last summer, I changed my mind about Mikel Arteta. And it had nothing to do with watching All or Nothing, because that stuff is edited.
Yeah. It's propaganda.
It is. And I watched the City one and loved it. And I stopped watching those shows when they didn't show any of the Poch sacking. I'm like, hang on, how can you do Tottenham and not show what happened? That means they're not showing. You can't have the full story because they literally.
That means Spurs are in control of what gets put out. Yeah.
Exactly. So if they're controlling it, you're not seeing what's really going on. So for me, I've switched off from watching it. But I watched over the summer with the players he bought, the way he was talking, the way they performed in preseason, how they started the season. I'm like, this guy's actually there's a legit coach in there. And there was a comment that came through earlier that said Arsenal season is a flash in the pan, no different to Leicester winning the league. Next year, they won't finish top 4, and Rice is a clown for not seeing that. For me, listen, you could guess that right, and they don't make top 4. If they don't make the top 4, it's not going to be through a lack of them not being a brilliant team still. It might just mean that 4 other teams are better than them, but I just don't see Arsenal slipping back into mediocrity again. I just don't see it, Lyes. I think they've moved on so far from there. Their young players, Saliba, Saka, Martin, they're all going to be a year older, a year more experience. Bet the manager's going to have learned from last year. If these signings work again 3 summers running, their
trajectory is undoubtedly increasing high. Like, if you really believe that Arsenal are going to take a massive step and potentially even fall to the top 4, I don't know what you've been watching the last 12 months, bro.
Yeah, I don't either. That breaking news that I was going to bring to you. So have you heard of the West Ham podcast called Claret and Hugh?
I haven't, no.
It's a great name. Obviously, one of the guys that runs it is called Hugh. And he has said that Arsenal are now looking to be struggling to go the pace in the race for Declan Rice, as others threaten to move in. Amongst others, Man United are very likely to move in on the race. And it says that West Ham are looking to get close to 120 million in cash or cash plus players. Now, look, I'm taking it not with a pinch of salt because they're very credible. This was the podcast that they obviously know Declan Rice's father because they spoke about the meetings that Man United and Arsenal had with him 2 weeks ago. Look, again, I'm a United fan. I want this to be true. Maybe not 120 million, but I would love you had Declan Rice to the Man United midfield. And I do think we go up a level as a football team. So there's an opportunity there where that won't happen. But where do you personally see Declan Rice going?
Arsenal. I think, honestly, if United had the funds to do it, people will laugh at this. I genuinely think there would be real competition from United if they could afford it to bring Declan Rice in. And I think they would have just as good a chance as anyone to bring him in, bro. I truly believe that. But I think he's going to Arsenal.
Yeah, I think he's going to Arsenal. Like 150%. I think he's going to Arsenal. I can't look beyond it. I keep seeing news of us being linked to him.
Yeah. No, Ten Hag loves him. Ten Hag loves him, and I think Declan Rice would want to come to United. Like, he'd be interested in coming to United. I don't know about more than Arsenal or more than City. He'd be interested for sure. But there's no way United can financially pull off this deal.
Yeah, again, unless we spoke about this nearly an hour ago now, unless unless they're completely lying to the media, Man United, and they have far more money, or if tomorrow morning it's announced, because this is what may be able to happen. I know they're talking 12 weeks until the takeover happens, but financially, the club could loosen the purse strings and say, well, we'll spend it because we know it's going to be backfilled by the Qataris when they come in, if that makes sense. So again, there's a lot of scaremongering when it comes to, but we can't do anything for 12 weeks.
Yeah. Keep an eye out for City, though, huh? Keep an eye out for City because they are interested.
You've got to watch out for City. You're absolutely right. I keep seeing this news that we're looking. As a United fan, I hope and pray we can pull it off because, again, as good as I think Caicedo can become, as good as I think Lavia can be, genuinely, I've been saying this about Rice for about 3 years now. This guy is the truth. Brilliant footballer, wonderful technician, got an engine and stamina for days, and he's a genuine bona fide leader. Yeah. This guy just led West Ham to a European Cup. This guy has, listen, and he's played for such average managers, footballing guys.
I think you're missing the biggest thing too for me for Declan Rice is he is so hungry to improve and become better and become the best midfielder in the country. I like he's obsessed with it. And you look at his improvement year after year. No one has improved more from where they were like 3-4 years ago in the Premier League, in the entire league, than Declan Rice, bro. And I think he's obsessed with getting to the next level, playing with the best players, competing against the best. You even listen to his interviews. Like, he's so obsessed with like picking the brains of Yaya Toure and like the way he talks about Paul. Like, he is obsessed with seeing himself at that level and competing against those guys. And I think a move to the likes of Arsenal or potentially playing under Pep, that eats at him. I'm sure he cannot wait next season to be playing in the Champions League.
Oh, I absolutely bet. And yeah, I look at Rice, and like I said, I hope this story is true, but I think he goes to Arsenal. And I think Arsenal fans, even the ones that are optimistic about him being a good sign-in, I honestly believe, bruv, that they are
underselling it.
I think they're underselling it. I don't think they realize what a colossal, sensational professional they're getting. And that's the thing. He'll never be Paul Pogba ability-wise. Never.
Yeah.
But I think he's got more determination and works harder and better leadership skills than Paul Pogba. And Paul Pogba, by the way, everyone knows I love that guy. As a technical footballer, clear of Declan Rice. But that isn't what makes a professional footballer maintain their levels. That Pogba, for me now, I honestly think he's finished. And I mean that.
Yeah, his career is heading down. For sure.
And look, he might have just been unlucky with them. But as someone who grew up around a lot of athletes, my friends who had consistent injury problems were the ones generally that were the least dedicated and didn't box in the fighting world. We have an expression for it, and it's called living the life. Like by the way, I was never going to be a good enough fighter to make enough money, so I kind of scaled down the training I did, but I was still in the gym. The guys who lived the life, they were ready to fight at the drop of a hat anytime because they were always fit. You had other guys that in between fights, they weren't even in the gym for weeks at a time. And I kind of feel like that's where when you buy a player like Declan Rice, the hunger and the determination, and as you say, the everyday fight in him, he's never going to be an 8.5, 9 out of 10 technical footballer like Paul Pogba. But this guy will give you 8, 9, 10 out of 10 performances 99.9% of the time. And that level of consistency over a season is better for you than a player of a Paul Pogba level who one in every 3 games goes missing, because that isn't how you win leagues. And I think that's why I see he reminds me a lot of Roy Keane without the aggression. But
I don't think that's that bad of a shout, to be honest.
He reminds me so much of Roy Keane, but a 2023 edition without the punching and the kicking and the red cards.
Maybe Roy Keane is a better short passer, I would say. Declan Rice carrying the ball is something.
Yes, yeah. So the differences in the game there, but the overall package, they're very, very similar to me in that way. And I just sort of, just something about him. He's just out of this world. And I think if Arsenal get him, they go up on absolute another level. They really, really do. This here says United and City have McTominay or Phillips plus cash. This is true. In terms of, this is the one thing I would say. We might be able to get a deal done with West Ham potentially before Arsenal do, but I do think Arsenal have also put a lot of work in and are more likely at this point right now to land him. But listen, Fuad, listen, if he signs for Man United, I am buzzing. I might even.
I like seeing, by the way, I see very similar names in this chat as in FTVL. Fuad Kadani's army is a regular in my FTVL super chat.
Love that, my guy. You can't get rid of both Xhaka and Partey in one window. How can people not see that such a midfield overhaul is a big risk. Transition period needed. What's your take on that?
Man, you can't get rid of both Xhaka and Partey in one window. How can people not see that such a midfield overhaul is a big risk transition period? Yeah, I can definitely hear that. I think ideally, if I was an Arsenal fan, I would want to see Partey maybe relegated to a substitute so that you're not just losing all these players overnight. But at the same time, too, let's not forget, you'd have Rice. I believe Jorginho is still at the club, and I don't think he's going anywhere this summer. El Neni is a body in there. And then I think that the two biggest game changers really this season for Arsenal are Smith Rowe and Fabio Vieira. I think those are two guys that Arsenal have clearly committed a lot of time in Smith Rowe and money in Fabio Vieira. That next season is huge for them. And if they deliver, then a guy like Xhaka, his absence, although he had a great season, will not be felt that much, guys. Because I think their upside, their ceiling is higher than what you can realistically get from Granit Xhaka. What you got from Xhaka last season is the best you're ever going to get from Xhaka. Let's get it completely straight here. The likelihood that he replicates the output and the consistent performances he gave you last year, another year at what, 31, 32 years old, he's getting up there. It's unlikely.
No, I agree. And sometimes when you've had a player that really hasn't delivered for you 2, 3, 4 years running, they have a good year. Sometimes the best thing to do is sell them, get some money, reinvest it. But I hear where you're coming from, Jay. Definitely a risk. I wouldn't disagree that it's a risk. Isn't a risk. If Neves goes for 55 million euros, hopefully we can get 60 plus for Partey. Well, if he goes to Saudi, which he's linked to, then you very much could. Then, who knows? Maybe then you do go for the Caicedo Rice double as an example, because you are linked to Lavia as well, as he's been linked to Saudi. 1 extra year on his deal and a better player, bigger name. Yeah, I do think a bigger name, especially having been at Arsenal. I think that's a really good shout there, Jay. Very, very good shout. It's okay to disagree with Arteta's player profiles and still back him. Nothing wrong with that. I don't agree with the Kai Havertz transfer, but once he's in an Arsenal kit, I will defend him and support him 100%. Yeah, and I think that's the right thing to do for your football club. To a degree, you've got to do it. Like, I don't agree. Yeah, you've got to get behind your team at some point. In one breath, our fan base is saying they want the club to be ruthless. Now they are complaining about ruthlessness. I couldn't care less if Partey leaves, is what Gunner 077 has got to say. Yeah. Gunadan says, sell Xhaka and Partey, get Rice and Lavia. That honestly makes 0 sense, because if one of them were to get injured, it's El Neni or Jorginho again.
Yeah, I hear you, because there is always the worry, but you could also say this season, if Partey or Xhaka went down, there was always that worry too. The one thing I will agree on this comment is next season, Arsenal will not be able to just throw away every single cup competition the way they did this year, right?
Yes.
People will talk about how great Arsenal were in the league, and rightfully so, but their record in competitions outside of the Premier League was a disgrace last year, honestly. Well, their performances in the Carabao Cup, the Europa League, the Sporting, the League Cup, it can't be replicated again. So you are going to have a bigger squad. So I definitely hear the people saying, look, you obviously would rather keep Xhaka and Partey in the squad if you can. But here's another thing too, guys. Are Partey and Xhaka going to be happy at this stage in their career, just kind of taking a step back after having a great season? Potentially not.
And you don't want unhappy players. It's a great point.
Yeah.
Remember though, the story, I think it was Jacob Steinberg put this out, and I think The Athletic corroborated that they were looking at Rice, Caicedo and Lavia, and Gundogan. So they're looking at 3 midfielders.
Gundogan, I'm keeping an eye on too, by the way. Huh? We still haven't heard anything. That would be an amazing signing for Arsenal.
Again, and if it isn't Gundogan, maybe they're going for another third choice. So I get your point, Gunadan, but maybe they're thinking, and again, that goes back to the risk of the previous super chat. Maybe it's, well, we're going to bring in Rice and Lavia and somebody else. Maybe, again, you've got to balance it because of when other teams are trying to buy players. But maybe if you get Gundogan, then Lavia coming in with Rice, that's suddenly an amazing midfield 3 with definitely. Jorginho and the backup of El Neni right at the bottom of the pile. If you can't get Gundogan, then maybe it's right. We're going to raise the money through the Partey sale and we'll go for Caicedo, because then I know he's young as well, but it's a level up, a slight level up from Lavia, because he's really young, only 1 season under his belt. I think that this is why I say the football. I get we cover a lot of the transfer stories on the Terrace. You always get people saying, Terry, but yesterday you did a story saying that we're linked to Caicedo. Now you're saying we're linked to Lavia. Different journalists, different views. And my way of sort of like looking at it is I kind of bank all the different stories and go, right, well, I've seen them linked to Lavia. I've seen them linked to Caicedo. I've seen them linked to Gundogan. I've seen them linked to. They're not going to buy all 4 or 5, but clearly there's a hierarchy here. So then the stories that get the most traction, like, well, you can clearly tell Rice is number 1. Caicedo's an option, but I think Caicedo's an option if they don't get Rice or if they don't get Gundogan. Maybe then do you get what I mean? Like, it's almost the club is just going to target 3 people. They're going to target 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's why there's stories about all of them. And our job as fans is to try and decipher what we think is going to happen. And for me, that's the fun bit. That's what I enjoy about transfers. Oh, what's it going to be? Who? Where will he play? Who will he go in for? I love that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. I'm still worried about Arsenal, Terry. Yeah, I know I got bantered for the whole scared thing last year, but of course, I'm worried about and fearful of or scared, whatever expression you want to use. I know beta males are afraid to say out loud they're scared of something, but for me, it's true that a lot of them are. They say, "Oh, I'm not scared." I don't mean you're under your bed, mate. But any team that's a threat to Man United, I've got a fear for. And people that say they're not are liars. Because people were saying it like they tell me on streams, I ain't scared of them. And then you listen to them talk during a stream and they'd be like, oh, well worried about Arsenal at the minute. Oh, you thought you weren't scared of them? Oh, no, not scared, just worried. Same thing, bro. Do you know what I mean? I love it. This from Chike says, Lyes, would you take Neymar and Kane to improve Man United because Flewers wouldn't take him? For me, he doesn't want United to do well. Also, Terry, who was the best passer of the ball in your opinion? So
this guy was literally in our FT and our stoppage time. He asked us the same question about who is the best. Hey, big up Chike, bro. Big up you.
Chike's a good guy. So let me just caveat this. I said that the reason I wouldn't take Neymar is because he's too injury prone. Only starts an average 16 games per season. And I would rather spend the money on Harry Kane is what I said, because we know we ain't got the money to buy both. That is what I said. I said, if we had the money to fill all our holes in the squad and have Neymar as a kind of, he plays 20, 30 games a year, of course I'd have him there. Because
wait, so you hate Neymar and think he's dog shit, Terry? Is that what I got from
that? That's it, bro. 110%. That's it. Who was the best passer of the ball in your opinion? Like current or ever?
I think he asked us who was the best ever. And he asked us earlier.
Oh my God.
We gave a few names because there's so many. We said Scholes is up there.
Scholes,
Xavi, and Pirlo. Those were the 3, I think.
Pirlo's got to be up there. Xavi's there. Scholes is there. David Beckham is there. David Beckham's passing range was ridiculous as an example. KDB's in that conversation as well.
I like Kroos. I like Kroos a lot in that regard.
Tony Kroos. Do you know who I like? Again, he doesn't get fame for this. Lionel Messi, that guy can pass.
He's not bad, is he? Huh?
Not bad. It's kind of one of those attributes with Messi that no one talks about. Zidane as well. Yeah. And Zidane's ability to break lines again, but one of mine. He's underrated. I don't think he's in the category with the people we mentioned, but I love shouting him out. Michael Carrick was just ridiculous on the ball. And again, I always wish that he wasn't English or British and that he was Italian or French or something. But but those guys there are in that sort of space. Who else is a really good passer that doesn't
Fabregas.
He was out of this world.
Basically, if you're Spanish, right? Cazorla, Fabregas, David Silva, Busquets, Iniesta, Xavi. If you're Alonso too.
Do you know who I loved when I was younger as well? Edgar Davids. Edgar Davids was just... I loved him. Again, my memory of Edgar Davids is difficult because I remember him mainly as a kid. So it's maybe a little hazier than what I really remember, because at the time I was like sort of a young adult. Man was at Tottenham, and then I swear he played for another really small club in England, like Burnley or something.
He played for Barnet.
That was it. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. By the way, underrated in passing, Steven Gerrard as well. Steven Gerrard was very, very
He's more Hollywood for me, to be honest with you.
You think
the guys Gerrard is more like the long diagonals for sure. When I think like great passers, okay, Gerrard obviously can pass a ball. Let's not get it twisted, but I think the guys we're naming, they have that range in them, like Pogba as well, right? He could play a ball one side of the pitch to the other without breaking a sweat, but the short passing, I think, is what's always definitely underrated. Like Xavi, it's like give and go. It's like tiki-taka. It's a metronome.
There's a player now that's just come back into my head.
Who's that?
I want to make sure I'm saying his name right again, but I love this guy as a youngster. Yeah, it is right as I pronounce it. Juan Roman Riquelme.
Riquelme is. I have a compilation on my Twitter. Actually, I'll send it to you after. The guy, honestly, man, genius.
I was seeing it, and I knew his surname was Riquelme, but I was like, I was sitting there going, is his middle name Roman? I didn't want to say it and it looked stupid. I wanted to
I'll tell you
yeah.
this, right? In terms of passing, there's a statistic, right? He is the only player in World Cup history to go through a game completing over 100 passes on more than 99% pass accuracy.
Ridiculous. Yeah, that guy was next level. Next level. Also got Fred. Got for a Fred in there. McTominay. By the way, McTominay the other night, by the way, for Scotland.
I didn't watch him.
Oh my! Do you know what? About halfway through the game, people were like, "This guy's balling out." So obviously, none of the internationals are on TV. I don't have the channel for it, so I put it on. Do you know what I get annoyed about it? He's only playing Norway. By the way, that's Odegaard up against Odegaard. By the way, and
Haaland.
Oh my God, he was so. You know, McTominay. You know, he had that one of those games where you go, actually, there's a player in there. He looked really good the other night, but yeah, sell him, please, Man United. Sell him. Yeah, Pirlo was out of this world. Yeah, absolutely, he's a complete and utter genius. I wanted to ask you a quick question about Lavia as well, because he's been linked today. Fabrizio's new word is concrete. He's been saying concrete all day long. Maybe he's got the builders in. I don't know, but Lavia, are you sold on him? Because Man United are linked to him, Chelsea, Liverpool, but Arsenal seems to be the club at the moment with the concrete interest, according to Fabrizio. Good enough, or would you rather him have another year elsewhere before your team buys him?
What is he, 19?
19, yeah.
Yeah, well, 19, this was really his first year of professional football ever. I think he came directly from City's academy. I was really impressed by Lavia this year. I think for his age, he shows really good maturity. Obviously, physically, he's such a great athlete at such a young age. And he can play as well. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that down the line, we will be talking about Lavia for the next few years, a bit like how you just described Caicedo, one of the premier midfielders around Europe, if, God forbid, no injuries or whatever. But I hear the concern, right? Like, is Lavia good enough to go into Arsenal's midfield tomorrow and start for a team hoping to bid a title challenge? Maybe not, to be honest with you. I feel the same way at City. I think maybe he does need another year, either learning at a smaller club or kind of like being a deputy to a guy like Casemiro or a guy like Declan Rice. But can a lot of clubs afford to have a guy like that just like as their deputy? That's the question. But I don't doubt the talent whatsoever. I think Lavia is a really, really good talent.
Yeah, I'm the same. I get he's another player that's linked to us, but other teams seems to be ahead in the race.
Yeah.
He isn't the guy, and I know we spoke about this already, that I think could take Man United from where we are to challenging. But again, I'd like him at the club. There's been too many of these really talented midfielders, Caicedo being one of them only 18 months ago, linked to us at 4 million quid, that we just don't seem to bring in at all. We just seem to always miss that. Look, and Eriksen, I thought, did a good job for a free transfer this year.
Stopgap.
Yeah, stopgap player. But we need to start bolstering out that midfield. Look, Casemiro was sensational, one of the best midfielders in the league. And I think he will be for another 2 or 3 years. But we have to now start planning beyond that point, as opposed to, and sometimes it's like, he's got to do it now. With Lavia, the reason I'd want to get him now is you might get him for 40 million. The problem is,
you wouldn't. I think that's the issue here, right? You have to either buy him now or risk him going to City for 40 million in a year, bro. That's the biggest risk for me.
Well, like, this is also it. Like, maybe you pay 50, but say you don't, say you don't want him next year. If he keeps improving, he's either going to be at a club that won't sell to you, like Arsenal, or he's going to be a £100 million player like Caicedo. Yeah, so sometimes it's like with the Caicedo deal, we didn't go for it. You sort of sit back and go, what risk to Man United is 4 million quid? Like, if you're offered a player for £4 million in 2023, like in the current market, even if they're crap when you sign them, it's only 4 million quid. Do it. Like, it's crazy to me. Like, we've really got to start looking at what these other clubs do for players. Like the other lad who's coming through now at Brighton, is it?
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's going to be a world beater, but how are they signing these players and we're not? You know, you've got to, because look, I want to sign the best players in the world. I love to, but you have to also get the balance right. They sign a few of the superstars, but also why don't we sign the players before they're superstars? Like,
you remember the whole thing of Caicedo, how interested we were when he was in Ecuador. It came out that he was a United fan, and I think we were quoted like 5 million if we want him. And I can't remember exactly why we didn't get him. Like, it was literally, the deal was done. We could have gotten him. He ends up going to Brighton, and now 3 years later, if you want to buy him, 10 times that price.
It's 10 times that. Yeah, I mean 20 times. It could be 80 million. Like, it's just crazy, bro. Yeah, it really is. Lyes, did you watch today's Algeria-Uganda game?
I didn't. Is it Aouar's debut today? I might have to go check out the highlights then.
Traitor. You are a traitor.
Hey, I got
your
stuff to
own
do,
country.
man.
No, I know you're a busy man these days. Like Lyes is super famous now.
Famous, I don't
Wait,
know about
Terry,
that.
you just said Caicedo was linked to United for 4 million. When was this? Yeah, like 18 months ago, bruv. This is a real thing. You should watch more of the shows. You should watch more of the shows. We spoke about it on the terrace. Man said the Glazers in like it's meant to hurt. What should hurt is even with them snakes, we had a better season than you guys. Yeah, there's an irony in that, mate. There we go. Listen, Lyes, always a pleasure, mate, to share the camera with you, talk football and everything else. Viewers, make sure you've hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. And a few people still talking about the I'll show you. Look, it's a quality two-piece. Look, that leg days. Look at that look at them bad boys. Look at them bad boys. Hey, look at them.
I was just hoping you were wearing pants underneath, bro.
Mate, absolutely. Well, there's nothing under the shorts. I go commando in the summer. Keep it all fresh. Do you know what I mean? I use a little bit of like Manscaped ball bag deodorant to keep it nice and fresh. No underwear. Gets the air in. You know what I mean? It's great. It's a great day. It's a great day.
If it works for Jess, it works for you, I guess.
There we go. Never mind. That's not haram to show people a pair of your shorts, bruv. That is a lot of insecurity in you right there, my friend. It's a lot of insecurity in you. Listen, everyone who's tuned in, I want to say a big thank you to each and every single one of you. Hit the like and the share buttons. Make sure you're subscribing. Back tomorrow with, I don't even know what we're talking about yet. We'll see what the news is saying. Top 6 show in the evening at 6 p.m. as well. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll